March 5th City Council meeting to order. We would have pledge of allegiance and invocation by Councilwoman Burks.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you so much. There are no special presentations this evening. Can I get approval on the minutes?
Second.
All right, council, if we will take a look at our agenda for this evening, we have ordinances on the final reading, we have none. Ordinances on the first reading, we have, under mayor's office. Any comments or questions, please hit your light. All right, Councilman Ledford.
Madam Chair, I have one for Public Works, but I will wait till our Public Works meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Resolutions, we have under council office, we have a board appointment. Any comments or questions? Economic development, any comments or questions? Family Justice Center, any comments or questions? Really quick agenda today, this evening, council. Parks and Outdoor, any comments or questions? And Public Works. All right. If you will take a look at next week's proposed agenda items. Any comments or questions, please hit your light. All right. All right, council, if you will take a look at your purchases, we have 3 purchases, 1 RFP and 1 emergency purchase. Any comments or questions? All right, any questions about future considerations? All right, Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Under Planning Item 7A, the $500,000 resolution, or to, if awarded, would that be a matching grant by any means, like an 80-20, 60-40, 90-10? It's just a real simple, yeah.
There's no match required for this phase of the
No match
grant.
required?
No.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you so much, Councilman Ledford. All right, we have Parks and Public Works with Councilman Hester, followed by Planning and Zoning by Councilman Ledford. All right, I will turn it over to Councilman Hester.
We're going to do some changes up. We're going to yield to Ryan at this time.
Thank you, Councilman Hester. Do we have the slides? I appreciate the opportunity to speak with y'all. I did want to just take a minute to speak about Fraser Avenue. We'll keep it relatively brief, but I did want to just give a brief update. Last week, we joined Vice Chair Hill, Public Works Administrator Ross Pitcairn, Planning and RPA Director Dan Reuter joined Vice Chair Hill at a community meeting. Really appreciate their leadership during that presentation. We presented 2 reconfiguration options for Fraser Avenue, and just wanted to share that from the city's perspective, either option is serviceable, but we put forward option A as our preferred option. In the days since then, it's become clear that we could have spent a little bit more time explaining why option A was our preference. So we appreciate the opportunity to just take a couple minutes now to do that. And whenever the slide comes up, it's just going to be showing option A, so it's not that much anticipation whenever it is able to be shown. At the end of the day, priorities determine any decision that we have, and priorities are most often shaped by perspective. Where you sit is where you stand. So depending on who you are, what you like to do, where you work, or where you live, you're going to be looking at this through some ordering of pedestrian safety, ensuring continued success of the North Shore businesses, bicyclist accommodation, and traffic flow. Good city leadership is about filtering all of the inputs and trying to rank order those priorities in light of what is best for the community as a whole and how this project fits into the broader priority of trying to build a safe and thriving community. The city's rank order of priorities for this effort specific to Fraser Avenue, and I want to emphasize this is specific to Fraser, are as follows. First, pedestrian safety. Second, thriving merchants. Third, cyclist safety and accommodations. And fourth, flow of traffic. So we focused on short-term solutions for now, meaning what can make the biggest impact on our top priority in the shortest amount of time while setting the stage for longer-term investments in the future. In our view, option A best captures these priorities by putting a premium on pedestrian safety and multimodal enhancements while balancing on-street parking and incorporating shared travel lanes. It accomplishes this through a combination of operational improvements and capital investments. So let me just quickly go to, I'm going to skip 90% of these slides, y'all, so don't worry about that. I'm just going to get to option A. All right. This is split into two slides because Fraser Avenue has some length to it, but this gives you a sense of Market Street on the left-hand side is the beginning of Fraser Avenue there, and it starts moving east. And that yellow buffer zone is what I'm going to be referencing here. That is a pedestrian buffer zone there that can be filled with things like planters, art, some overflow activity, et cetera. So when I say buffer zone, that's what I'm referencing is some of that yellow area. So option A puts pedestrians first by maximizing the distance between driving cars and quick-moving bicycles and the walking pedestrians. The buffer zone provides space for sidewalk activities, flexibility to overflow to the street, supporting additional foot traffic with the current sidewalk width. The buffer zone also allows for street art, planters, and other placemaking activities. Also, that buffer zone, that yellow area, shows where we would like to expand sidewalks with grant funding in the longer term when we talk about longer term investments along Fraser Avenue. By putting pedestrians first, option A also benefits merchants. So expanding the walkability encourages more foot traffic. Reasonable accommodations to allow for deliveries is also a benefit here. Both options, A and B, do retain street parking, which is important for our merchants. To be clear, there are about 16 more parking spaces in option A than option B. For cyclists, we actually believe both options are much safer than the current state. That said, there is a park right here, just south of Fraser. When possible, we would prefer to send our bike traffic through the park to allow for Fraser to be more focused on pedestrian safety and safely moving pedestrians and vehicles. Bikes who want to stay on Fraser can safely integrate with one lane of slower moving traffic on Fraser. But we would encourage as much bike traffic as possible to go through the park. Finally, for traffic flow, our final priority, our study showed a maximum impact of 30 seconds to a minute for travel time during peak rush hour, which we believe will be less by adding a middle turn lane and focusing on further traffic light synchronization. So both options should have a minimal impact on traffic flow. So bottom line, our preference is option A. That said, public input is still open through our survey at cha.city/Fraser through the end of next week. While we prefer option A, we support both options and are seeking and listening to public input through this process, and will listen to that input thoughtfully, especially the input of those who live closest to Fraser Avenue. Thank you very much for your time, and I would like to turn it over to Vice Chair Hill in case she has additional thoughts on the matter.
Well, how convenient, I have my light pushed. Looks like next. Thank you, sir. Oh, you cleared me out.
More time.
All right.
Councilwoman Hill.
Thank you. Thanks, Ryan, for sharing that with council.
I think that it was important for you to come and just share the rationale behind this, but also the process that we're going through. Council, we had about 100 people attend that community event. There were no brownies left. It was an excellent civil conversation where people asked questions. I really appreciated Ross and Dan and Ryan's help, and the work that they did for the presentation was great. And I think in addition to the change that the city will ultimately make on Fraser Avenue, I think a big takeaway for this council as a whole is that in doing this, one of the things we're thinking about is how do we come to a replicable process so that in every council district, when there is a road that needs attention, the way that Fraser Avenue did, and I'm certain that everyone in our districts have roads like these that need some TLC, that will have a middle way that includes solid feedback from the public and engagement, not just traffic engineers working in their offices and not just reliant on some kind of grant dollars and a fancy charrette, but something that we can do time and again to really involve people in the roads that they use every day. So thank you, Ryan, very much. And I hope that the public will continue to engage in this process. I've gotten nothing but positive feedback, even in as much as people may like one plan or another, or maybe not like any of them, they really appreciate the fact that they've been invited to participate in the conversation.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see no hands. Welcome to Parks and Public Works Committee. Can we accept the minutes? Oh, you. There you go, Chip. Sorry about that.
Ryan, so I know we're going to have, you said another week or two of public
Week and
input.
a half, through the end of next week.
And I guess at that point, I mean, do y'all just collect all that data and then decide, well, the public wants option B, so we're going to recommend option B, or
We'll make
what's
a
going to be the
decision, yeah.
deciding factor of which option?
Well, again, we'll see what the survey results come back with. So we had 450 survey results so far as of Monday morning. I haven't checked the results today yet so far to see what the participation's like, but so we're just going to have to see how that shakes out, and then we will weigh that against our preference. Again, zip code matters.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you're
So-
also filtering, I think, by zip code too.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, we're not in a place where we've created a formula where we said, if this, then this.
Okay.
But we're going to take all that feedback and also look at it with Vice Chair Hill and make what we feel like is the right decision for
Okay.
Chattanooga and for the district.
Thank you.
Yep.
You good, Council?
I'm good.
Okay. Now, let me say it again. Welcome
For
to.
now.
You're good.
All right.
Welcome to Parks and Public Works Committee. Can we accept the minutes?
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, ordinance on first reading. Transportation CDE.
Item C, an ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 32, Article 3, Sections 32-61 through 32-85, relating to excavations and restoration of paving. Item D, an ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 32, Article 12, Street construction. Item E, an ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 32, Section 3213, 3214, and 3215, relating to license to make excavations.
9E, please.
A resolution authorizing the waiver of park rental fees for River City Company in support of Loop for the Chattanooga Green for the dates of March 12, 2024 through April 15, 2024, in the amount of $33,500. A deposit in the amount of $10,000 will be held by the City of Chattanooga for the entirety of this rental period to cover any potential damages incurred by the installation.
I see no hands. F, please.
Are we getting this presentation? Because I was holding my question.
A resolution authorizing the Administrator for the Department of Public Works to award contract number R-23-004-201 Batters Place Pickleball Court Canopies to Integrated Properties LLC of Chattanooga, Tennessee, in the amount of $78,138, with a contingency in the amount of $2,000 for a total amount of $80,138.
Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Chairman. Scott, can you give me an estimated time when Integrated Properties might start working on this once it has been voted on?
Yeah, I'll have to find that out for you, council member, but I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, because, we're going to get into the hot season, and those courts are very, very popular, and I've been out there myself, and it's some shade would be welcome. But they're doing their job, I promise you that. And can you answer me this? Was part of this funded with the grant from the Greater Realtors Association that we had applied for?
Yeah, $25,000 of it was provided by the Realtors Association of Chattanooga, who specifically said we need pickleball courts to be competitive for families that want to live in Chattanooga.
That's exactly what they said. It's almost like I wrote it myself. Fantastic.
Wow.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Vice Chairwoman Hill.
Thank you, Chairman. I just, items C, D, and E, I was under the impression we were going to have a presentation about street cuts on those three, which is why I didn't chime in.
Okay,
That's
here
the
comes
hottest
Ross.
ticket in town for me. I want this presentation and have some questions about it.
Okay.
Hey, good afternoon, council. Make sure this works. Okay, so this has been a little bit in the making here. So this is to address some of the processes that we've already have been implementing, but it's also in bringing the code up to current standards, but it's also to improve our infrastructure. So we have several changes here that we wanted to bring to your attention and hope that you would approve. The first thing is on section 3213 is just clarifying some updates. There's a group that no longer exists there called the Economic and Community Development Department. The Land Development Office currently performs those duties, so we're making that correction with this update. It also speaks of a street cut license that has never been really existed. We have a permit, but not a license. And in this section also, there's an update to the licensing for builders and stuff like that. It was issued by the ECDD, but it's really issued by the state. So that section brings all of that up to date. Under 3215, it shows that we have a bond requirement of $2,500 for street cuts or work, but we've been using $25,000 for bonds because in the past we've had some contractors not do good work and leave, and $2,500 was not enough to cover the repairs. So, but it's already been enacted. We've been doing the $25,000 bonds for some time, so we're making that update there. And under 3263, that clarifying update is basically just letting folks know that a street cut permit is not a substitute for a land development, land disturbing permit, or also for the work zone permit. So it just gives more clarity for the contractors whenever they go to the land development office for a street cut permit. This is one of the bigger changes here. It's implementing what we call a recovery fee. Now, the purpose of this recovery fee is to encourage contractors to get work done before we resurface a road. As we know, we're trying to take better care of our roads, and the last thing we want is contractors to cut a freshly resurfaced road. So the intent is for contractors to look at our resurfacing list and to try to get work done before we resurface. If they don't, then we have a formula where the segment that they have to cut out, they will be assessed a recovery fee. The formula will be in the code, but basically it looks at the area that they're cutting and has a calculation, takes into account how much the city pays for the asphalt. And that money will go into an account that we will have for future resurfacing. So the intent is, though, to encourage contractors to get the work done before we resurface, because as you know, once you cut into a new resurfaced road, it tends to fall apart a little faster. Mm-hmm. We also have in here, just for awareness, Nashville and Knoxville also have these kind of policies. They go out to 5 years. We went to 3 years. And also the American Public Works Association also recommends doing this. So this update on section 3264, the first part is traffic control plans. We have helped contractors with those. We've developed those for no fee. We're changing that now to where if the contractor does not provide one themselves, we will do one for them, but for a fee for $150, which is fair and square. So we're just updating that. It's also updating basically giving contractors no more than a week to close down a sidewalk or a street. If they go longer than that, then they will incur a $100 a day fee for closing a sidewalk or road. It's another method here that we're trying to encourage contractors to look at other means of getting work done other than just closing the road or sidewalk. You've seen like in some areas, like in New York, where pedestrians next to buildings or construction, they'll have covered walkways, things like that, or the contractors be a little more creative with their traffic control plans whenever they do work. So the intent here is not to really penalize the contractors, it's to encourage them to limit the downtime or the closures of sidewalks and the streets. And also, if we have a very long going project that there's really no simple way around it, we have language in there to where they can work with us and we can develop a plan outside of this change here. But as said in the last bullet, there's no charge for the first 7 days. This right here, this change in 3267, it's stuff that we already have contractors doing. You've seen a lot of steel plates around the city whenever they do excavations for water line repairs and so forth. Some contractors have been leaving steel plates longer than we would desire them to. So this basically limits how long that they're allowed to have the plates down, and also that they have to have information on the plates, because the plates do shift sometimes depending upon traffic. So we want people to be able to identify who owns it and is responsible, and they are supposed to be available 24 hours a day. This also talks about the requirement for fill-in. Whenever contractors will fill in a hole temporarily because they have to go back in after some period of time, they'll use flowable fill, and that fails fairly quickly. So basically, this gives them guidance on backfilling and what we require in order to make sure we have a strong road. And then also more technicalities such as straight line cuts and things like that, how we finish the surface. Section 3268 extends the warranty. Instead of a 1-year warranty for patchwork, we're requiring a 3-year warranty. So if there's any issues with the patch repair, we'll have a contractor come back and take care of that. That's to ensure that they do a good job in the beginning and we don't have any issues after that. And then the next one, 3269, is basically extending it 24 hours to 48 hours for response for the city to support cuts. And as you can see, it's an exception, or there's an exception for emergency work. If it has to happen quickly. And then the last piece here is basically, we have a lot of very specific criteria in the code right now. What we're doing is we're taking out that very specific language and telling contractors to see the standard drawings for our transportation department. So as we need to update the standards on our drawings, we can make those easy, and we don't have to change the code every time that a standard changes for whatever reason. So in general, that's the major changes of all of these things that we've been holding off for a while, and standing by for any questions.
Councilman Leff.
Thank you, Chairman. Ross, can we go back to street cuts? So this is excellent. Thank you for finally addressing this. I cannot tell you how many times we have seen a road paved, and in one specific case, post-tornado, Jenkins Road, the road was beautifully resurfaced. People are starting to feel great hope that we're going to get through this, and 3 days later, five utility cuts made, and I mean, you just want to pull your hair out. That's literally what happened to me. And this is great for you to finally look at this, but also when they go back, you've also addressed this with the fill-in, because we see that these fail. They become the worst part of the road.
Right.
And we don't, it feels like, and folks, and people who pay for our roads get very frustrated. And I'm really glad to see that you're taking a look at this and that we're clamping down because it feels like that's been kind of a little bit weak in enforcement. And I'm glad that we're setting a higher standard for when we're cutting into our roads. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Chair.
You good, Council? Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. So, Ross, specific questions about the traffic plans. I do appreciate the very practical changes related to preserving our newly paved streets. But the traffic control plans in 3264, followed by the section in 3265, which it sounds like 3265 hasn't changed because it's not listed as one of the changes. But 3265 within this ordinance says that if any sidewalk is blocked, a temporary sidewalk shall be provided, which shall be safe for travel and accessible for all users. This portion of the ordinance alongside the traffic control plan caught my attention because I've had some folks reach out to me about the Riverwalk when we're doing the stadium and as the bend is being built, and I said, well, expanding those is part of those plans, and they said, no, we're concerned about not having access to the walk itself. And I've traveled Market Street a lot, and I've been on foot on Market Street quite a bit, and we've got a new hotel project going in, and at, I think it's Market and 7th, the road is just blocked and pedestrian, like you have to cross the street multiple times to try to get around the corner. So my question is, number one, let's see which ordinance this is. This is, I believe, item A that I'm looking at. Excavations and restoration of paving. In section 3265, am I correct in understanding that this is not new language?
I'm pretty sure it is. I don't have it in
Okay.
front of me, but I'm pretty sure it's
So
not.
this has been our current language. So we have been saying that you have to have a temporary sidewalk. We just have not been fully enforcing the temporary sidewalk?
That might be the case.
Okay, so that takes me back then to 3264 with a requirement for a traffic control plan, and this is related to a street cut. But within that traffic control plan, is there a requirement for addressing how you're going to provide an alternate sidewalk?
It should be, but I'll ask Chris Davis to come up and answer that. He's more of my expert.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. They will be required to make a pedestrian route around. There may be a few instances where it's impossible to do that with scaffolding or some of the more ingenious ways to do this, but the majority of times we should be able to route pedestrians around construction in the most direct path possible.
So what is changing within the ordinance language that will cause that requirement to be enforced, given that it's already been in the code?
Yeah, well, the big thing will be the time limit before charges start. Because right now, there's not really a fee associated with when you do have to close it. So now there will be a fee associated with that. And so after a week of that, they'll start getting charged $100 a day. And so they'll be incentivized to make that scaffolding to where people can get through there without having to go around the block.
Okay, and this language is specific to street cuts, but not all work that blocks a sidewalk or a road is a street cut. So what coverage do we have in scenario, like, for example, the Market Street that I've been having to hoof around in heels and a suit is, they're not cutting a street, they have a giant crane. It's all kinds of neat stuff happening there.
Well, this is really covering work zone permits in general.
Okay.
So I guess most of the questions have been on street cuts, so we've been calling it the street cut permits, but really, this portion of it is about work zone permits generically.
Okay, I wanted to hear that in the microphone. Thank you. And then final question, Ross. What is, I think the patch warranty is a fantastic point to expand it from 1 year to 3 years. What is the process to enforce that? Are we going to keep a running tally of in 2024, these are all the patches and in 3 years we're checking them? How's that going to work?
I'll let Chris answer that question also.
Okay.
These are all his great ideas.
Okay, cool.
Now, we'll have to have the inspectors keep a list of the street cuts and go back out after it's been 2.5 years, go back and revisit those and see what they're looking like.
So do we have some kind of queue system for the inspectors where we can set that, like a reminder for year 1, year 2, year 3 to put that in their to-do list?
We're going to have to develop that within the system.
Okay, yeah, it would be best to have a system, not to be reliant on complaints.
Yeah, currently, they would have to do it just through a calendar notice, a task notice on their calendar.
Okay.
But we're talking with the LDO folks to see if there's a better way that they can put that into the code itself. So
Okay, so is IT and performance improvement involved in those conversations?
the more IT technical team members in the LDO, but not Department of Technology Services.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ross and Chris.
You're good?
We're good. And thank you, Madam Vice President, for the oversight. Thank you. Madam Clerk, 9L, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to renew the professional services on-call blanket contract for modeling and floodplain analysis systems, contract number S-20-004-100, for year 4 of 4 to the 5 consultant firms listed per their qualifications package in the amount of $750,000. Stantec Consulting Services, Inc., CDM Smith, Inc., WSP USA Environment and Infrastructure, Inc., formerly Woods Environment and Infrastructure Solutions, Inc., AECOM, and S&ME, Inc.
I see no hands. Wastewater, M and N, please.
Item M, a resolution authorizing the administrator of the Department of Wastewater to execute a memorandum of understanding in substantially the form attached with the City of Chattanooga Industrial Development Board for the design and construction of a Class A power, Class A biosolids, and process optimization for wastewater energy recovery project. Item N, a resolution amending Resolution Number 31538 entitled, "A Resolution Authorizing the Administrator for the Department of Public Works to Award Contract Number W-22-018-201, Raise and Lower Manholes for Tennessee State Paving Projects, to Professional Concrete Finishing, Inc. of Chattanooga, Tennessee, for $449,675, with a contingency in the amount of $50,325 for a total amount of $500,000, and renaming the resolution as a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Wastewater to award contract number W-22-018-201, Raise and Lower Manholes for Tennessee State Paving Projects, to Professional Concrete Finishing, Inc. of Chattanooga, Tennessee, for year 1 of 4 with 3 annual renewals in an amount not to exceed $500,000.
Thank you. This concludes Parks and Public Works Committee. I want to thank Ross and Scott and all the great workers with Parks and Public Works. Thank you. At this time, we'll have Planning and Zoning.
Favorite day of the year.
Best committee all month. You ready?
Yeah.
All right.
do it, Rockapella.
Let's do it. Welcome, everybody, to our planning and zoning meeting for Tuesday, March 5th. Can I get a motion for the minutes?
Second.
Minutes will stand without objection. Ms. Rennick, are we ready? We have 3 cases in opposition, which we will cover. We have 1 special exceptions permit. The city attorney will read, or Karen will read for us. And first case on the deck is 0023. Karen?
Yes.
Good, we're on page. Take it away.
Okay, as mentioned, there are 3 cases with opposition. This one, I believe, only had an email in opposition, but it's a request to rezone a portion of the property at 6745 Customer Delight Drive from R1 to R3 with conditions to develop a 232-unit multi-unit development. The site's near Highway 153 between Lee Highway and Hickory Valley, and that's showing the number of acres is 11 with a density of 21. The portion being rezoned is 11 acres. The entirety of the project is a little over or almost 14 acres. So using the 13.7 acres of the entirety of the project, it's 16.9 dwelling units an acre, just to clarify that. The applicant had some proposed conditions. I'm going to pass through these as the conditions changed as the project moved forward. Just to remind you, the mix of development form are the medium-density townhomes to the south, the church to the east, and then office complex to the northwest, and then a mix of commercial developments along Lee Highway, and then as you head north of the site, kind of a suburban single-unit residential mix. Staff noted in the staff report, the property is shown as landlocked from public right-of-way. It's just important to have the required access to development. So staff had found that the site is not compatible with the plan. The plan recommends a medium-density residential mix, and that includes single-family townhomes, patio homes, 2, 3, and 4-unit dwellings if density is compatible. The request for R3 that staff found is not compatible with the plan and would introduce a higher density of about 19 dwelling units an acre that's allowed in the R3 zone. As mentioned, the entirety density for the site's a little bit closer to 17. And the proposed high-density residential is not compatible with the surrounding medium-density residential in the area. And then noting Hickory Valley Road has significantly lower densities, moving away from 153 and Lee Highway, and that's shown on the pattern on the density on the map. So staff felt an RT1 or RTZ zone would be more appropriate at this location to provide medium-density residential options, and staff recommended to deny. So there was opposition present. This is the one that did have opposition at Planning Commission. I think most of the development comments were about speed, traffic, cut-through. There's concerns about cut-through traffic on the road to the north of the site, noise, trash. Planning Commission found that the request with conditions is compatible. At Planning Commission, the applicant proposed the 10 conditions noted there. So Planning Commission is recommending approve with those 10 conditions. They're pretty wide-ranging from dumpster location, it's a gated community, and kind of the height of buildings, and I'm happy to read those, but it does address a wide range of development impacts on the site.
Very good. Before I go to Dr. Burrs, I see your light, ma'am. There was a TIS conducted, and I saw some of the data that came from that I found to be interesting. So I'm sure Dr. Burrs will comment on that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I asked for a full presentation. It probably won't be ready. We're still in discussion, but I wanted on the record a full presentation on everything, including recommendations. I will probably be deferring it for a bit. There need to be more discussions, so we won't be voting next week on that.
Okay, so we will look for a motion from the floor on that, Dr.
Yes,
Burrs?
sir, you absolutely will.
Very good. Any other questions, comments on 0023?
And Mr. Chair, if I may, I've asked Karen to present the other one very briefly but completely, because I'll be making the same request on
0026.
that. Yes, sir. They both need further discussion, but I think they should be on record as being fully presented.
Yes, ma'am.
I will be brief with this one then. This is a 6700 block of Ballard Drive. This is behind C2 property that fronts on Lee Highway. It's part of an overall grocery store development next to the Tennessee Baptist Children's Home. So it's just that small portion of an overall site. And staff recommended to deny, thinking the R3 zone there already serves as a better transition. There was someone at Planning Commission in support. There was an opposition present at Planning Commission, but we did receive an email. It comes with a Planning Commission recommendation to approve just that R3 portion with a condition related to berm, and the berm language is pretty robust there, describing with intention to screen the development from the residential property nearby.
Let me have one follow-up question. Karen, the front part of that property is C2 already.
That's correct.
And what the discussion is about is the grocery store is already moving onto the C2. The property behind it is R3
That's correct.
now?
Correct.
All right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And there were, Dr. Burrs, 2 site plans that were proposed, revised, and there it is. And Karen, can you tell us which one was referred to or preferred?
There is one, we do have a site plan the applicant was just showing about developing on the C2 portion. I did put a note that that's not preferred. The applicant's just showing the configuration of on the site with the C2 and the additional R3.
Well, then I do have another question. Why is that not preferred?
I believe the applicant was just showing that development can happen in the C2 portion, but maybe does not provide.
It was not preferred by you or
by the applicant. I
Oh,
think they
well.
just provided that as information.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, and I will clarify that that
Yeah.
was not preferred by the applicant.
Okay. The only question there have been a number of meetings, and the only question there is access on Ballard Drive. And this is a perfect example of the discussion we had earlier of our infrastructure not being safe or ready. It's a very narrow one-lane drive, and you would have a grocery store ostensibly dumping traffic into it, and there's a whole neighborhood behind. So I think that, so Karen, you were there at the comments earlier.
Yes.
We need to really be thinking about infrastructure before we come up with these grandiose plans that put people at risk, and I'm glad to see that some of that is happening now. But anyway, we're still working on this, and my sense is that it will be deferred next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Burrs. Any further questions or comments on these 2 cases? Madam Chair, you have 4 cases. Anything we need to cover real quick before we move on to, I'm going to move into planning and our special exceptions permit and a PUD amendment. You okay on yours? You have one? You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Karen, if you could just briefly tell us about item 0034, just to have it on the record. This is a great project that's going to happen in South Chattanooga. Met with the neighbors.
Yep.
They are excited about it. Just a general overview of what it is and how many units it'll be.
Sure. This is, it's an exciting project on Alton Park Boulevard, just across from the school. They're proposing 60 units of multi-unit residential kind of cottage court development. And I'll show the site plan just to give you an idea. Staff is supportive of it. Planning Commission was supportive of it. It's an M1 property transitioning to residential. We did make a note that we do want to see, staff would prefer an urban residential form, just to have that walkability, eyes on the street in the future. But because there is a stream there that prevents that, we're supportive of it as proposed.
All right, that's it. Thank you so much, Karen. I appreciate it. Thank you, Councilman.
You're welcome, Madam Chair. We do have a special exceptions permit. You want to cover item J, either you or Phil?
Yes, I can touch on it briefly. It's for a special exceptions permit for a new liquor store at a former location. This is on Hickson Pike. I'm going to use Loopy's as kind of the mark for it.
That's a good reference.
It was formerly occupied by Vine and Barrel, and ownership's changing so it requires a new liquor license. The field review shows that the Clear Creek Church property is 500 feet, just over 500 feet away. Phil and I talked about it briefly before this meeting. When it's that situation, we call the applicant and ask them to provide us a survey showing that location is in fact over 500 feet. We've done that in the past and haven't had a problem with applicants being able to provide that in a timely manner, so I'll ask them to provide that.
And for education purposes, is that property line to property line or door to door?
Property line,
And it's, it depends, it looks like this would be property, it is property line, and then there's some language about the leasehold line, so we'll work that out. And usually the applicants are very familiar with it and already know about it.
That was more for everyone else.
Oh, yes.
Good to know things. All right. Any questions on this item? Very good. Let's move into our,
Mr. Chair, do you not see my hand?
well, I thought that was for your item coming up.
They're both mine.
It's in his district.
Councilman Smith?
Thank you, sir. Karen, I think you answered this, but this is simply a change of ownership, is that right? Because Vine and Barrel has been
Yes.
at that location operating for quite a while.
Yes, my understanding is a change of ownership.
Got it. I just wanted to be clear on that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You got it. I'm going to make you hit your light again. All right. Case number 0032. This is a PUD amendment.
That's correct. It's at 6107 Hickson Pike, and that's just past Cassandra Smith and the curve. In 2017, the site received a special permit for residential planned unit development. So there is already a PUD on the site. The person is essentially replacing that PUD, adding some more land to it, and adding some density. So the 2017 site plan, this was the site plan approved at the time. The little out parcel that says not in PUD is what is going into the PUD. So this is 7.75 acres, 62 units. Remember, there's already an approved PUD sitting there. This extends the PUD, and now you can see the little area in 2017 that said not a PUD or not in PUD is now in the PUD. That shows, on the site plan, it shows a dog park, I think it's pickleball courts and an activity area just south of that subdivision to the north. So this is showing the changes between the 2017 and 2024 PUD. So the acreage is increasing. Because the acreage is increasing, density, well, they're putting more units in, and the density is also increasing, but note that the community lot is also increasing. So, and just to make sure that I've got that, yeah. So the site's located in the Hickson North River Plan, which recommends medium-density residential for the property. And then it talks about a mix of residential if the density is compatible. So there's a wide range of density in the area. I'll go back to the aerial photograph that might help with that. The apartment development across Hickson Pike off Rivoli Drive has a density of about 11 units an acre. Single-family residential development on Tuscany Place, which is just north of the site, has a density of about 4 dwelling units an acre. And then Winbrook Lane development has a density of about 1.4 units an acre. So the staff felt the request is compatible with the plan with that mix of uses. Again, the density for the 24 PUD is 8 dwelling units an acre, and found that the development's compatible with the plan and surrounding. There was opposition present at Planning Commission, and there were emails. So concern about the height of the development, the location of that dog park, being closer to those neighbors to the north, and just noise, location, activity associated with the site. Planning Commission determined the request is compatible with the plan, development form, and adjacent land uses, and it comes with a recommendation to approve the special permit. There are no conditions on the permit, just approving the special permit. The PUD does lock down and has a variety of things that cannot be changed without council approval in the future.
Thank you, Karen. Councilman Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Karen, one thing I didn't hear mentioned that it's my understanding, and maybe you can clarify this, and because maybe it is incorrect. I also understand that part of this change is that the roads will be private roads and not city roads. Is that correct as well?
I would have to go back and look. That is not on my radar, and I don't remember seeing that in a staff recommendation.
Yeah, I saw that in one of the reviews somewhere. So I would definitely need to know that. I currently have my count is 259 opposition records on this.
Yes.
And those are just the ones that have responded to a very specific survey about it. I have many, many, many beyond that. I may end up deferring this for a little further conversation. I'm concerned about the streets not being city streets. We are converting from off-street parking to on-street parking, from attached garages to detached garages. And back in 2017, the reason we had a site map is because I requested it so that I could convince the neighborhood that they would do what they applied to do. And here we are trying to change that application. That's a problem for me. I've expressed that with the applicant. I'm happy to continue some of those conversations, Karen, but if you could confirm a few of those.
I will.
If we are making streets private so that they don't necessarily have to be city standards as far as widths, we're encouraging on-street parking. That's why there's a dumpster now, because we're not going to pick up trash on private roads. We're also going to have a hard time with our emergency services getting down smaller roads with on-street parking. And I've got at least 2 neighborhoods that I know of in my district that have private roads, and I hear from them constantly wanting that road to be turned over to the city so that they can actually get services, which of course we cannot do. And it's an undue and unfair position to put residents in. So I'll most likely, I'll just be honest, I'm not approving this as it sits. So there's definitely some changes, and again, depending on what the applicant's willing to do with some of those requests, specifically the private roads, the size of the roads, the size of the lots, and frankly, coming back and changing what I worked with the neighborhood to get approved doesn't really sit well with me. I've heard too many times they'll bait and switch aspects of planning and zoning. So I'm kind of surprised that Planning Commission didn't pick up on shifting to a completely new PUD to increase density on this one, but I intend to continue that conversation, and we'll see where it goes next week. But thank you so much. If you could just follow up and confirm
I
this, because
will.
if that information especially on the private streets piece, is inaccurate, I'd really like to know that. That's an important piece of my consideration on
Yes,
this.
I will follow up right away.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Karen. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Councilman, I believe the city attorney has a comment to public-private streets as well.
Yeah, just briefly, the summary report on here does say that it would be changing the roads in the PUD from public to private.
Great, thank you.
There you go.
That's where the reference is.
There you go. Thanks for that confirmation.
So, excuse me, Chair, may I have one
Please,
more?
it's all you.
So Karen, we have that confirmation. I don't know if part of that new site map shows street width,
Okay.
but let's confirm that, because again, I'm certainly not going to be sitting here and approving something that doesn't allow us to get emergency services to our citizens,
I will confirm.
regardless of public or private. So if you could confirm, I'd appreciate it. And Chief, if you wouldn't mind looking into that as well. I don't know why we would even consider allowing something to be done that does not allow our fire and other rescue services into these homes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Councilman. Seeing no other items on our agenda, let me remind you of our third proposed zoning changes workshop on March 26th at 1 p.m. It'll be our third publicly advertised and publicly open work session at 1 p.m. And I believe we do not have an attorney-client today. And Madam Chair,
5:30.
how long would you like to recess until?
4:45.
4:45? Are you sure? We do not have an attorney-client. We do not. All right.
We don't know attorney-client.
You are in charge.
keep going.
Mr. Dooley, if I missed anything.
You're good.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate you keeping us in check. We will be back at